The absolute best book you must read. In one of my last podcast interviews, I was asked my answer through the interviewer for a loop because I didn't provide a specific book. Instead I said, so if you're struggling to be an entrepreneur, that book might be, or if you're struggling to build a brand, it might be a book on branding. If you're struggling to grow your social media and its effectiveness, it might be a social media book. If you're struggling to find VC funding, it might be a book on VC funding. You see. If you're on a long-distance road trip and you blow a tire, but don't know how to change your tire, and the only thing that tells you books you should be reading? Because action highlights your challenges and weaknesses. If you don't start the journey and eventually get to that blown tire, you never come across the problem and learn how to change it. Or learn how to hire someone to change it. This is why I haven't finished yet. I had to deal with some problems. Love this. Lately I've been focusing on both marketing and mindset, as these are the two areas that I think will make the biggest difference for me going forward. Also, when you read books that help you solve your current problems, you actually learn and retain the material a lot better because you can put what you learn into practice right away, and there is no better way to learn than by doing. I guess reading about success is easier and much more comfortable than action. I generally take this a step further. Rather than reading a book on how to change a tire, I would look up specifically what I don't know. Where to jack up a car? How to remove stuck lug? Whatever you are struggling with, marketing, branding, social media, etc. There's usually a specific problem you are having. Focus on that problem. The Lean Startup: 1. Call AAA to get the tire changed. 2. Start a great tire company. 3. Patent automatic tire changer robot. 4. Save time waiting for a 5. This is a good perspective shift for me, as I am a huge reader, although I only agree partly with the premise. I believe there are a lot of amazing general mindset type books out there that can really take you to the next level without specifically solving a problem in front of you. I would not have ever came across and met a bunch of amazing people at the Fastlane events had I not read books that just came my way, including, I had no clue I even wanted to become an entrepreneur until I had read certain general books. I believe it's good to always be reading something that can potentially shift your mindset, even if it doesn't necessarily directly solve the problem, although I do agree you can read and read and read, and not take any action, and all that reading would be frivolous. Now, if I were asked what my top 5 must-read books would be in there. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same interview, but I watched a YouTube video 2 nights ago that ended the same way. He definitely wasn't ready for that answer. It just goes to show you're on an entirely different level than these people. It's great to hear your discussions. Thanks for doing so many. Me too. I finally finished the Value Array and Value Voucher just recently. I thought I had been done with the 3 BS, the biases and bullshit part, but I found myself laughing at my mistakes written in black and white before me. They were still in my life like cancer cells that just stay hibernating. I had to throw out quite a lot of books and reading material because they actually didn't really matter after reading. There were rabbit holes I didn't need to enter to make money or buy freedom. Reading is like a diet. If you read too much, you get too fat and obese until you can't move to take action. Thus the term, analysis paralysis. Analogically, if you eat too much, you are not likely to use all the vitamins or nutrients, it's likely to go down the drain. But if you read only what you need, there's a higher chance of the knowledge is going to be deployed rather than just sit in that miserable pinkish gunk we call the brain. Analogically, people who eat only what they need to eat to use up the stored energy and vitamins more sufficiently and efficiently. Good thing you put this in the book discussions thread. New people need to read this before sending themselves into entrepreneurial hell. I was there before, and I actually prefer losing $10,000 on a bad business decision than go there again. It's also much better than watching mindless TV all day and doing nothing. For many people, reading a book is a form of action if the previous best they did was nothing. I've been changed more by books and audio than almost anything else. Sure, action is of course important if you have an itch to scratch or a specific problem to solve, but reading a book about anything to do with success, business, mindset or anything really is still preferred and a huge step up from doing nothing. Depending on the situation, as long as it's not stopping you from taking action you need to take right now. I prefer the rabbit warren of a good book over watching Family Feud or getting pissed with or even hanging out with a bunch of sidewalkers or bench sitters. I read different books for a couple different reasons. I read some books to learn more about things that I find interesting but maybe aren't entirely applicable to me. I read some books to become better at who I am. This is about being a better version of myself as a person. I read some books to become better at things I need to know. This is tactical reading that helps me get better outcomes and achieve my strategic objectives quicker. Absolute lie. If you had to learn just one thing in life, this is it. What we call officially giving value. It's not about value. It's about managing people so you get what you want with their approval, their help, their yes. IMO. Learn what is required for the next hurdle in your life, whatever that may be, relationships, spiritually, business, physical fitness, whatever. Of course, applying some of what you learn may also be a smart next step. Already loving these forums. I've been thinking to myself lately if I have been getting used to the idea of reading as an excuse to just read everything that doesn't pertain to my priorities. Seeing someone describe it perfectly like I felt it makes it much clearer. I'll grab some freelancing or data books in the meantime. Gotta finish first. Though from experience, I feel like people are so in love with the personal growth, mindset, finance side of books since it changed their lives that they are honestly scared to put them down and read something else for fear old scripts might come back. It's almost like I gotta be reading this 24/7 or I'll go back to my old self again. Love this. Stop reading to read. Read to solve a problem. For some people, reading can be a form of escape, is just like TV, and can even be addicting. Proceed with caution. If the book or article does not help you or bring value in this specific stage of your life, skip it. LOL, through the interviewer. Great answer. Bump. Damn it. I could have just bumped this thread. Giving you back your rep plus. Where can we find this podcast episode in question? I just ran out of audiobooks. Tongue. Great post. That's why I read the twice, because I wanted to have all the knowledge to solve problems. There are books that are transcending current problems. At least for me. And that book is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The Hayes translation is my favorite. I have reread this book many times. The only way I can explain why is: 1. It grounds me and allows me to go through life like a bamboo, flexible and resistant. 2. Every time I open it, read something useful, I just randomly open the page and read the following another random page, aka F the hater. Keep learning. Last one, aka persistence. That said, execution is king. Fully agree with that. I realized very recently my mistake in just reading. I had put this down as a form of taking actions, when in reality just reading business books is a brilliant example of action faking. Learning theory is nothing like learning from your mistakes. It's a good starting point, but unless you then follow up with action, it's a waste of time. Reading too much can also slow your progress down in a number of ways. For example, I've been guilty of all these things, but learned far more from having a product to market and getting feedback from customers or sales numbers. Looking at my bookshelf and computer files. Amen, amen, amen. The best book is the one that inspires you to finally take action. I was so sick of my job. It was time to leave. I didn't want another job, I just wanted to start my own business. Fear kept me from going on my own. But every day for lunch I would read inspiring books about people being successful, that helped me get over the fear and take a leap of faith. It was scary, but looking back 27 years later it turned out to be the best decision I ever made. Different keys for different locks. No, that's not the name of a book. Different books can make sense for different people in different situations at different times in their life. Whenever people ask a question like that where they ask what's the one best underscore, I think it would make more sense to ask what are 5 excellent or some of the best underscore. Bump. Everyone will have their own best book, and I also think they're likely to change throughout their lifetime as they grow and change. For me, Mindset by Professor Carol Dweck was life-changing because it made me realize I had a fixed mindset and I was my own limiting factor. For me it was the right book at the right time, but it wouldn't be right for everyone. I read books regularly, but every now and then I read something that sparks me into action. I realize now after reading's post that it's because I've lacked focus in my book choices. Going forwards, I'll make sure I'm choosing books on my current knowledge gap, not what looks interesting. That's why I'm here, Unchained Man. 4-hour work week. Hey, I like it. Who moved my cheese? Play to win. I'd say though that the books that led you to taking real-world action are the only ones that count. Some books can make you feel good, but if you don't act, then what's the point? You might as well be reading 50 Shades of Grey. That's a joke. For an excellent book about one of the most underrated but important guys in modern business history, read by Mark Levinson. It's about, of all things, the invention and evolution of the modern shipping container and how it completely changed the world. You will not be disappointed. It sounds dry, but it will get you fired up. Considering that this is reading a thoroughly enjoyable book like this with a mindset will give you a much deeper and more meaningful appreciation than the average reader might have. You'll see as the 3 B's are overcome, how value was created, the payoff of vision and persistence, and the value of integrity and an unselfish business mindset. Forget Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Jack Ma, etc. Instead, revel in the tale of Malcolm McLean as he took on a logistical mindset as old as time, how to ship stuff and beat it into submission seemingly by sheer force of will and persistence, and in the process created value and global change on a scale scarcely, if ever, seen before. Bump.btw, I bump this thread usually when I get an email saying no, do not read a book next. And since I check my email sporadically, I cannot bump this thread 5x for the same reason. I tend to avoid business books except of course. I think the best information is found elsewhere. And tend to lean towards art, history, psychology and philosophy. For a few reasons. 1. There are a lot of things that went into building successful businesses that others would prefer to be kept secret, and that's okay. So you get skewed and somewhat inaccurate methods and information. Kind of like how Warren Buffett hasn't written a book on investing and how other books on Warren Buffett's method are kinda useless. 2. The problem that entrepreneurs solve in society are unique in nature, so that requires unique books, the kind that is not found in a business book. For example, Elon Musk's favorite books have nothing to do with business. 3. What works in one company doesn't work in another, and so on. And what works 10 years ago may not work today. 4. The business solutions that have the potential for millions to be made are found now, airy and guaranteed, not found in a business book. Trust me. They are found right in your head. So you kinda have to think independently and stop looking for a silver bullet. Remember, we want patents, things of that nature. Exclusive and ambitious barriers to entry. Most people are not ambitious when it comes to barriers to entry. PSST, The best books are books that help give you self-awareness, to remove barriers to rigorous and critical thinking, and that give you a good framework for independent thinking and problem solving. There are absolutely books you should read. The problem is, if people think there are a few that give them all the knowledge they'll need, realistically the number is more like 50 to 100. Also, taking action isn't some fix-all. The majority of ideas and businesses people own or create are bad, as 80% of them fail in the first 5 years. They took action and yet they still failed. Action without methodical contemplation is just as bad as ongoing contemplation, maybe even worse depending on the cost of the action. The truth is that the business market has never been as competitive as it is today, and thinking that just pushing yourself to do XYZ is all it takes is an insane delusion. A book that will help you solve the problem at hand is the ultimate answer, of course. But I drive quite a bit, so I listen to a lot of audio books. Subjects like how to change a tire or how to format a web page don't work very well in the audio format. Obviously, Fix Your Thinking or Attitude books do pretty well, though, as long as they're the right ones. If you're looking for something along these lines to fill in gaps between multiple passes through, and a few decent ones I've run across are, Unfck Yourself, You Are a Badass at Making Money, and For Something a Little Different, Kevin Hart's I Can't Make This Up. I believe these suggestions are compatible with the rest of the thread, because 1. Audiobooks, when properly used, should not interfere with progress in your life because you listen to them while you're already doing something else you need to do. 2. Very often, your attitude or thinking or mindset is one of the biggest problems at hand. Agree. +1. Bump. Now that I've started getting some income, I've been also trying to and make use of it better. I've really been enjoying books like and such for this purpose. Using interesting stories to teach simple but powerful concepts like making your money work for you, having a nest egg or emergency fund, learning to live within your means, and being very careful with where your money goes. Another book I've started reading is, which has been great. I graduate college tomorrow and hence afterwards will really be able to start my fast lane journey. With that being said, I've always had trouble on a single direction. This book addresses those issues very specifically and has been helping to figure out what the hell it is I'm going to focus on. If you chase 2 rabbits, you will not catch either one. Some Russian dude. There are plenty of books about entrepreneurship that motivate or inspire you to take action, but in my opinion that's not enough to do something that could change your life forever. For me, action comes from inside of us. Books wake us up to take action, but if we don't have that desire to take action, books then can't do anything more. The main reason people read books is to get inspired, but again that's not gonna change nothing unless decide to change our mindset and thoughts. Books are a delicious meal. It's up to us to take the meal. We can smell it but can't eat it till take action to stand up from the table, go to meal and eat it. Books are meal that we smell them, but can't eat them because we don't do nothing to take them. That's a great reminder. Simple yet profound. I find myself action faking by listening to audiobooks that get me pumped up, like Think and Grow Rich or general business strategy books, when I should actually be reading books about the specific things that I need to work on a lot and could apply immediately, like marketing. It's sort of like a security blanket and I need to stop. Thanks. MJ, that is a tough question. The best? I'm sorry, I have to cheat. If I gave it a serious thought, it would have to be something that profusely changed the way I think. And that could even be when you write your own biography every year in your journal. When you read it, it changes you. If the book is skill-related instructions book, like for doing programming, engineering, etc., then the table of contents is all that is really needed to decide what part in the book is worth reading. What part is likely to help in your particular situation to overcome the obstacle or problem you are currently facing. Reading the whole book from start to finish is insanely unwise, as it puts you into spending most of your time reading instead of doing, and the stuff doesn't really connect up to the experimentation process. In case the book is more like a story, like this is what I did and that is what happened, then paying attention to what kinds of results the person got in return of taking those actions is very important before considering reading it. Because if those results are not the outcomes that you aspire to, then the stories have maybe some 5% usefulness in comparison to stories that align with your most important purposes, which in comparison, let's say, are vastly and meaningfully more useful. Like 95% of usefulness, that kind of thing. And we can improve through stories at a deeper level as to the way we operate in our environment. Some call the better ones of such books transformational. For me, one has been Think and Grow Rich, which is sort of a hybrid, as it has also some elements of how to that I mentioned in the first paragraph. But the value of such books is not some step-by-step guide but to help you to think about how you could change your behavior. So that's the value with those. For instance, in relation to my own purposes, I recently listened one audiobook by Max Tegmark, Life 3.0, which is about. And the reason why I welcomed the content of that book into my brain was to influence my mind to think towards that direction. Thinking towards what direction to go with the doing, instead of expecting it to tell me anything about what to do. Similarly, I have even created one such book, which unintentionally formed into the format of a book, after I was trying to find out about what separates the most successful entrepreneurs from less successful. I have found this book useful at helping me to think about what I need to change about my own behavior, titled The Little Book of Self-Made Billionaires, discoverable at Amazon. By the way, if the majority of your time is spent reading stuff, then no matter what you read, the usefulness to you is near zero, as in comparison to what you could do instead with that time, unless your most important purpose is to do nothing else in life than to read. And furthermore, in comparison to what you could do instead, the majority of books on the market have little value and reading more of such books won't do any good. If somebody has some average skill of doing something and he writes a book about how he does it, you will receive average perspectives on how to go about doing things. And if somebody has really bad skills, the same thing. Maybe try asking yourself who is the absolute best on earth doing what you yourself want to do. Or if you are after very ambitious purposes, then who at least has made the most progress to that direction which you are aiming at. If that person had written a book about his methods, then that's the book to read, and if it has table of contents, then see if there's something you can immediately recognize that would help to overcome what you have experienced as obstacle or problem. If the person has not written a book, then maybe listen that person's interviews, go and talk to those guys, ask questions, show them that this is the most important thing for you to achieve too, making your point that you will potentially be a help at achieving it. If you have discovered a few of such people, then you only have to read a total of those few books written by those people, or if they don't have books, then ask them questions to which you do not have answers to. You literally do not have time to read what someone with average abilities thinks or does. That would be a total waste of your brain's limited resources. The vastly limited human brain that we currently all possess have strict limits both in thinking speeds and how much can be stored in such a brain, for instance, per day, per month, and so forth. Another excellent thread. I agree with some of the posts, with the need to read the book to change the mindset. The Millionaire Fastlane and, well, I could detonate. What's now? As they say, true change comes from within. So I read and reread. There is intelligence merged within. To add to MJ's point about reading the book about what you need to work on, when I read negative reviews for various books, sometimes those reviews are legit, but a huge percentage of the time, the person just isn't the intended audience for that book. It's not that the book had no value, it's just that they were simply reading a book that was not well aligned with the problem they were trying to solve. I try to consider that question before criticizing someone's work. Is this book really of no value to anyone, or was I just not the proper audience? So unbelievably true. I have just found myself getting more books to add to my book list on Audible and action faking. I need to implement and act upon the teachings and methods of books I have already read. Not be an insight junk and get myself into analysis paralysis I have been quoting since the start of the year. My problem is that I do not have a fast lane path to focus on. I want to be on a fast lane. I do not care if I love it or not. I'm a hard worker. I will put in the grunt work. I do not see a path to follow. What book solves that problem? Took me ages to finish. I started in when I was in a bad spot. And when I was able to make progress on myself, I finished it. Actually took me about a year, I think. I've finished both and great books. Like many members have already said, analysis paralysis plays a big role in why some people either never reach their full potential, or take a very long time to start reaching it. I've personally already failed at several business models: network marketing, affiliate marketing, and even phone flipping for one reason or another, and some of these reasons are absolutely my fault. What I've noticed is that each and every idea starts out exciting and interesting, and the more information I get and the more books I read on the subject, my mind starts filling up with more and more, at the same time losing steam and will to continue the project due to analysis paralysis and action faking. Too much reading on any subject can take away from actually doing the things that can make a particular idea successful. It's been a tough lesson. Just like every success story, this is just another chapter of lessons learned until I win. Hopefully my experience helps some people on here see why more information isn't always the right thing to go for. That's exactly my problem too. And this seems to have no solution. This is so frustrating. The Bible. I admit, when I first saw this response, I rolled my eyes. Hard habit from an adolescent surrounded by do-gooder Christians with very little follow-through. But then I caught myself and remembered one simple thing: if someone asked me the most valuable thing to strive for, in the blink of an eye the answer would be wisdom. Hands down. No contest. And that came from my mother who, as I was growing up, made me read one chapter from Proverbs every single day. 31 chapters. 31 days in a month. Pretty logical. I figure I've read that book more than 200 times. And here's the thing. You don't have to be a Christian to appreciate it. You don't even have to own a Bible. Plenty online. But if you do this one simple trick, you will find it is the greatest repository of wisdom in the world. A lot of it you won't quite understand on the first several reads. But there will come times, for the rest of your life, where a life circumstance will suddenly stop you and you will realize that that was what the specific passage was about. And you will know how to handle it. I'm an atheist, and I still say the Bible. I just came onto the forum for a few minutes while being in away mode for a week to deal with funeral arrangements for my father, and laughed out loud the minute I read this. Very, very funny. I have stacks of beautiful books people have given me to read, and I would like to, but aimless reading isn't gonna happen. Keep it coming, MJ. Sorry to hear the news, my friend. My condolences. This thread is a little ironic for me. After purchasing TMF and I noticed I now had a bit of credit to use on Amazon's great on Kindle book list. I didn't need another book. But I'm glad I took a look. At the time Amazon was giving 75% credit back for most of these books. Even if you get the book for free because of accumulated credit, you still got 75% of its value back as more credit. What? It has since dropped to 10% back. He prioritized a list of books I might find useful in the future. Consulting threads here. And, long story short, ended up with 7 more books without paying a dime. Now I have a backup list for when I'm stuck on a plane or whatnot. Thanks, MJ. Lol. I like books that give me examples of what fails. While it's difficult to learn what to do exactly right, it's easy to learn what not to do, in my opinion. Bump. Cementing a mindset does not happen overnight. Just like daily goal setting can help with focus, motivation, and maintaining one's commitment, reviewing can help crystallize what's been learned. I think it's less about fear and more about increased repetitions. But I agree with you, it should not be a 24/7 kind of thing.